All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us again for this week's backstage meeting, the pre-production meeting for Right Angle. And Bill, you did that again. You did the reach around on the mug, except from the other side this time.
I'm not going to touch that.
I don't do anything by the book. I'm a rebel. I play by my own rules.
That's right.
I'm a rebel, Daddy.
And might I note, for those insiders, it looks like you may have a new microphone or you got a new can of black spray paint.
Oh, we have a new microphone. We had two, one for the desk and one over here, and then NRA got us a nicer one for the desk, and we swapped out the white one for this bad boy.
I like the white one. It looked like a stormtrooper microphone.
I think we always welcome an NRA microphone in case we feel the need to shoot off at the mouth.
Absolutely
and we certainly do on a regular basis here. Now, my understanding is that you'll be doing more shooting than most this week, Bill, because you have the members episode for this week. So why don't you take the privilege of the floor and run with it?
Well, I owe my, I think the public show I owe to you, Scotty, sent me the story of somebody who I've actually interviewed at length for an hour here on After Hours, a street artist named Sabo, who is very effective. And there were some mumblings and grumblings about Zuckerberg actually running for president. No kidding, seriously. And he put up a poster. Can you
explain to the people who aren't on Facebook, there's three guys in Indonesia who are not yet on Facebook. Who is Zuckerberg?
Yeah, Mark Zuckerberg is the CEO, multi-billionaire of Facebook, young guy.
Yes, that guy.
And if there's anything to the Social Network movie, a thoroughly unpleasant cat. In any event, he was having some kind of a rally or some kind of get-together, not so much a political one. And Sabo came up with a poster that basically used a verb that rhymes with Zuck and put it everywhere. And in response to this, Facebook has closed his account for hate speech.
Wow, this is right on the heels of my two-parter last week about Facebook and Google and all the nearly criminal antics they get up to.
Thou shalt not criticize thy superiors.
And I can understand Zuckerberg getting offended. I mean, I don't want my name connected with the word cluck either. But, I just think...
Well played. So I think that's, yet another... It's not quite in the league with CNN using its resources to track down the guy who made the Trump wrestling gif, but in any event, it's pretty pathetic. And every day they make a stronger case for, I think, for some kind of antitrust, something. I mean, it is. We've had this discussion, and it's a real conflict. Yes, it's their private company, and yes, they should have a right to do whatever they want to with it, but they're not informing the public of what they're doing.
One wonders whether the real issue here isn't the fact that he used, that verb in conjunction with somebody's name, or even that he used it in conjunction with the owner of, or at least the nominal czar of Facebook. Because I have a hard time imagining somebody who wrote the same verb before the name of the president of the United States would be ejected from Facebook. I just don't see that would happen.
No.
One wonders if the real issue is that Sabo is a very effective cultural warrior, and he didn't just say something. He actually provided what an avatar for it, the iconography that Bill Whittle is so famous for explicating.
Yeah, did Sabo
he got some traction.
Did Sabo do the new one that came out last week that shows the famous Apple ad? Steve Jobs looking all pensive with the Think Different logo. And then the second panel is, I've forgotten his name, the Google CEO. Google's now owned by Alphabet as a parent company, with the slogan, "Not so much." And, of course, you'll be able to see Bill's segment on his Facebook page, however briefly.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And I think for members, I want to do, president's approval ratings at 36%. And there's an enormous widespread sense of remorse and buyer's remorse and things like that. And people are feeling like, my God, we made, a terrible decision. I'm speaking about France, of course.
Macron.
They almost did a spit take.
who is tonking.
That's thank you very much.
Everybody, they elected him to avoid Le Pen, Marine Le Pen.
Yeah.
Well, that's not Mike
That's the
Le Pence.
only good thing about him, too.
Well, and he is he's under fire, but he's under fire for reasons that we would find
Appealing.
appealing.
When you run as a self-described radical centrist, you are going to disappoint everybody. It's an untenable position. It can't be.
Well, he's basically had the audacity to try to cut government spending, some benefits, and the French are so entrenched with this. It's just really that is a fight that he's not going to win, I don't think. But and a bunch of other things. Turns out his wife is 25 years older than him. He's like 35 or something. She's 64, somewhere in the ballpark.
Yeah, and during the campaign, they were giving her a rough time because of how she looks.
In any event, she's a darling now. Everybody seems to really like her and admire her. But mostly, I just thought I'd throw that in just because it's not the only president under fire, and this one was almost antithetical to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
He was young, well-spoken, discreet, all those things.
Yeah, let's make a short list of beloved G8 government leaders. How many of the world's top leaders, Angela Merkel, Macron, how many of these people really have 50 plus popularity ratings?
Yeah. I miss the old days in France when somebody like Mitterrand, his wife and his mistress would show up at the funeral contesting who was best dressed there.
So that's it for me, boys.
Okay. So there you have it. Stephen Green, always best dressed here. What would you like to talk about this week?
Wow, I want to talk about this false dichotomy that's being foisted on us by the alt-right and the Antifa crowd. That you have to denounce these alt-righters because Antifa, they're the good guys because you don't want to be a fascist, or boy, you better get on board with the alt-right because those Antifa people, they're communists. And no, we've got to denounce both of these collectivist idiots.
Yes,
it's not left or right. It's the individual versus the collective, and I'll have none of it. The
and
collective.
they're both loathsome.
They are both loathsome.
I was seeing, and I've actually started removing people from Facebook when they start trying to justify what one side or the other did in Charlottesville. I saw one headline that indicated, and frankly, I have not watched the video of the car slamming into the crowd.
It's horrific.
I don't know that I want to watch that video. I mean, just the idea of people doing that is so disgusting to me. But I saw some headline that basically suggests that some of the violence broke out because, one group of wacky, zany people taunted the other group of wacky, zany people, and then they all started fighting each other. Meanwhile, my guess is that there were probably some hundreds, if not thousands, of people in the crowd who aren't necessarily wacky, zany people, but are on one side or another of a legitimate issue and basically, are caring, compassionate people, or are, believe that we ought to have the good, the bad, and the ugly of American history on display and not tear down every statue to somebody that no longer finds favor with the public. So I feel like there's probably a nucleus of 2% of the population that has swept up a bunch of others in their wake and now has made them complicit in their evil.
That's right.
Yeah.
My understanding was, and for God's sakes, this is not an excuse, but I'd heard that somebody threw a rock at his car. And I think if somebody threw a rock at my car, I'd stop and back up. But I'm pretty sure I wouldn't run down an entire street of innocent people.
Yeah.
It's just plain, it's attempted murder.
Yeah.
And
it was murder.
Murder and
Yeah.
attempted murder. And the guy needs to face the full fury of the law. There's no defense of it. Now, it's funny. It's funny because I was thinking, oh God, now we're gonna have to defend this, and Dana Lash, the NRA caused this, and I realized I don't have to defend this. These are not my people. This is not my movement. They're goddamn Nazis, is what they are.
Yeah, Nazis versus communists.
They can defend themselves. Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. And Breitbart was a master of this. And because he would say, they'd get him on CNN and they'd say, "What do you think about this sign? With showing Obama with a bone through his nose?" And he'd say, "Why are you asking me? I didn't make that sign. I have nothing to do with that sign." And that kind of guilt by association. Yeah, it took me a while. I was like, wait, I don't.
Yeah, Bill, there's something else going on here, and maybe I'll. This is what I'll give to you, because this isn't what I want to talk about in my conclusions. Maybe I give this to you as part of your question. Back in the '60s, during the last huge protest era, it really was, whatever you happen to think about their motives or their goals, but it really was the protesters against the man, and the man would come and crack skulls and send everybody home. And what happened in Charlottesville was made possible because the man, the mayor, stood the police down. They practically incited this. They allowed it to happen because now it serves the man's interest to have us all fighting in the streets against one another.
And now the mayor is an outspoken critic, as you know, basically saying that Donald Trump might as well have been behind the steering wheel. I mean, I'm putting words in his mouth there.
Yeah,
No, but that's a really interesting. Yeah, that has to be there.
He's become the major critic of Donald Trump, and it's like, wait a minute, you had a responsibility to secure the safety of your citizens. You intentionally failed to do so.
Yeah, you intentionally
the police
failed.
were stood down.
You removed the security procedures.
In fact, that might be the crux of what I have both of you guys talk about tomorrow before I get into the thing that I want to talk about in the conclusion. Because I think this really, really needs to be said and said loud and forcefully and all the rest.
And I talked to, I think we said this before we started recording today, but I was talking about how, all of a sudden everybody in the country needs to know what the president thinks about this thing that happened in Charlottesville, and I don't give a flying rip what the president thinks or anybody else in Washington, D.C. But immediately when something like this happens in a place remote from me, all of a sudden the whole conversation is, wow, this is who we are. Or we're better than this, or whatever. And I'm like,
as a matter of fact, we are better.
Yes,
than that.
Yes, and in fact, I am not that. And there are a lot of people right now who, frankly, are seriously awash in guilt over historical unfairness. Not only that, but also they are thinking in terms of, well, have I done enough in my own life to wipe out the stain of racism in my life? And I can understand a healthy self-analysis, but what it has done is it has shifted the attention away from the real bad actors in this situation and basically tried to make everybody in the country complicit in whichever side you're against.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it's ugly.
Alrighty. So mine's a little lighter fare, perhaps.
Oh, thank
there was a
goodness.
fascinating, not too light. It's not tremendously light. This isn't my Candyland record, and
we do
why
not
I'm so
live
proud of it.
We do not live in light times.
No, we do not. There was a headline that caught my eye in the Washington Post a couple of days ago that said, "Who's benefiting from affirmative action? White men." And it's actually an interesting story. Because
is there nothing we cannot do?
That's right. Because that's really try to affirmative action us out of jobs. We will triumph nevertheless. But what it's fascinating is, and frankly, it reinforces my problem with affirmative action. Because when you get to a certain point with any group of people, if they are overrepresented, then you've got to affirmative action them out. And one of the big problems is actually with Asians in universities. Like, Asians are overrepresented. People of Asian descent or Asian immigrants are overrepresented in universities. And so they're actually being sort of shunted aside in favor of others. And in some cases, women have become overrepresented in some school situations and job situations. And so because affirmative action is supposed to achieve this idyllic, utopian, perfect one-to-one correlation between the demographic sectors and who appears in your organization, they're forced to now discriminate against people for whom affirmative action programs were created as a leg up.
Yeah, this is nothing new either. The Ivy League used to have I'm not sure if it was official or unofficial, probably unofficial, Jewish quota. You can't have too many Jews, or you don't have enough white guys in ugly golf pants, and that's not what the Ivy League was all about.
Well, so anyway,
that's a good topic.
I thought it was fascinating because it shows the other side of things, where basically, when things, the best laid plans of mice and men oft times gang agley, as the poet said. It is the intention to do well on, very compassionate people, want to do well, and they use the strong arm of government in order to do well, and it winds up flipping on them. Like we talked about last week briefly, where we were saying, hey, minimum wage, who's hurt worst? Hikes in minimum wage are hurting young black men.
That's right.
And so anyway, I think we'll have a good time with all of these topics, as painful as they may be. And there's somewhat of a I don't know if this is like psychological therapy that helps us, the three of us, work through our issues at the same time that you get to work through your issues and talk it out. But I hope it has been a salutary thing for you. And from the numbers of people who are watching these videos and becoming members at BillWhittle.com, like you, that I think we are providing a service that's of value. If you'd like to see that value expanded and increased and reach further and further around the globe, encourage your friends to become members at BillWhittle.com. Share our shareable videos with them, and let them know that they can be part of this little revolution to bring a little sanity back to our civil dialogue. For Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks for watching Right Angle. We'll see you this week at BillWhittle.com.